Thanks for joining us. It is a busy evening. We are just now getting new information on the mass shooting in Munich, and we'll bring it to you shortly. We begin, though, with Hillary Clinton about to announce her running mate, we're told. CNN's Jeff Zeleny has all the latest, joins us now from Miami. Jeff, what do we know?
Anderson, I am told by top Democrats close to this process that Hillary Clinton is going to announce this very soon. Right now, she's been on the telephone with some candidates who were in that final list, but were not actually selected. She's explaining her decisions, why she did what she did. John Podesta, the campaign chairman, also has been on the telephone tonight, I'm told. And Anderson, still all signs across the party are pointing to Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia, former governor of Virginia, as the likely finalist here. And interestingly, he is in Newport, Rhode Island. He just left a fundraiser a few moments ago for a fellow senator there. So he is going to be on his way to Miami if he is the pick, as most Democrats believe he will be. And he will be introduced side by side with Hillary Clinton tomorrow at a campaign rally. And the interesting thing about Tim Kaine, one of the reasons that he is so attractive to the Clinton campaign, I'm told by people close to the process, is he speaks Spanish, fluent Spanish, and that is such a significant share of the electorate here, particularly in her quest to defeat Donald Trump. So you can count on Tim Kaine, if he's picked tomorrow, to be speaking Spanish, as he has at most every campaign rally so far.
You know, last time I interviewed Secretary Clinton, what she always says is that her decision will be based on who could take over the job as president. That's pretty much what everybody often says. Obviously, there's a lot of politics involved in this. Assuming if it is, in fact, as you say, many Democrats believe it's going to be Tim Kaine, besides speaking Spanish, which helps her, particularly in a state like Florida, which is critical, what else does he bring to the table? Is there still that thinking that he could help her win the state of Virginia, or is that sort of thinking kind of no longer realistic?
No, it is definitely one of the things that makes him attractive, of course, a former popular governor, a current popular senator. But Tim Kaine, if it is him, it's not as much of an electoral choice, but a governing choice. Hillary Clinton told you earlier this summer, Anderson, and she has said it other times, that she does want a seasoned, steady hand in the government. Someone who knows what it is, an executive experience. And interestingly, Tim Kaine sort of has it all. He was he has risen up the ranks from the city council in Richmond. He was the mayor, lieutenant governor, the governor, now the U.S. senator. What's really interesting, if you sort of stop and think about this is an outsider year, an anti-establishment year. And Tim Kaine's resume is exactly what an insider would want to have. So it tells us something about Hillary Clinton, what type of a governing partner she makes. And Anderson, we've always talked often about how this is her second presidential campaign. This is the first time she has been able to pick a partner. She has been a partner, of course, a very active partner in the White House in the 90s with her husband, but she is making her decision here to pick a partner. And I am told by people who are close to her, she took this very seriously, someone who she could work with, who she wants in the West Wing. It's one of the reasons Tom Vilsack, the agriculture secretary, the former governor of Iowa, also on the final list of contenders here. She trusts him implicitly. So she turned to former governors, members of the cabinet. She's not looking for flash or sizzle. She's looking for someone with heavy government experience. Of course, she believes that that is what sort of amplifies her brand as she takes on Donald Trump.
And we should just point out we are awaiting the actual announcement from Secretary Clinton about who her vice presidential pick is. Jeff Zeleny reporting that Secretary Clinton is talking to people on the phone, as have John Podesta, talking to some of the candidates who did not make it, explaining their thinking on this. Jeff, stay with us. I want to also bring in CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger and chief political correspondent Dana Bash. Gloria, just in terms of this race, clearly there were some probably on the left in the Democratic Party who wanted an Elizabeth Warren, wanted somebody who might reach out more to Bernie Sanders supporters, or certainly echoes a lot more of the issues that Bernie Sanders has brought to the fore.
Yeah, I don't think Senator Kaine would be the choice of liberals, certainly not the choice of Sanders supporters. In a way, it's more of a choice that would make Bill Clinton happy as a sort of a moderate third-way Democrat than Bernie Sanders, more to the left in the party. I think that what this tells us about Hillary Clinton is that she didn't do this to appease any group. She's doing it to appease herself. She wants somebody she can govern with, somebody she can depend on, somebody whom she believes has the resume that would prepare this person to be the next president of the United States. You know, she's been in the White House when her husband got along with his Vice President Al Gore and when he didn't get along with his Vice President Al Gore, and she knows how difficult it could be. So I think she's making this choice based on her own experiences, having seen it up close when she was there.
Dana Bash, I mean, clearly also the speaking Spanish is critical, not just in the state of Florida, but in terms of just reaching out to as broad a coalition as possible.
No question. It is a invaluable tool to have politically for him to be able to go right into the Hispanic communities across the country, particularly in battleground states like Florida, and to be able to say why Hillary Clinton is the person who should be the president and do it in their native tongue. I think it's interesting how he even knows Spanish. The fact is he is a Jesuit who went to high school, or Jesuit high school. I actually grew up not in Virginia, but in Missouri, and he went to Honduras on a mission during high school, and then he took a year off during law school to do the same thing, to learn the culture, to help. He was aiding students there, but there he did learn the Spanish languages. And Anderson, I will tell you that is a plus, but I really think it also is, if it is Tim Kaine, and we still have to say if, because we could all be surprised tonight, then I think it's a window into where the Clinton campaign feels that they are comfortable, and maybe it is on the liberal side of the Democratic spectrum, and where they need to reach out for the general election, which is independents and Republicans who just don't want Donald Trump to be president and would feel comfortable with a solid choice who knows how to govern, like Tim Kaine, not to mention Hillary Clinton.
All right, we are waiting for the official announcement. We expect really any moment now. Gloria, Dana, Jeff, stay with us. I also want to bring in the rest of our panel, our CNN political commentators, Clinton supporter, former New York City Council Speaker Christine Quinn, Tara Setmayer, and Trump supporter Scotty Nell Hughes, and CNN political analyst and New York Times national political reporter Alex Burns. There certainly will be some disappointment among liberals in the Democratic Party who perhaps wanted somebody who they feel would be more exciting or more in line with their positions.
Oh, there sure would, Anderson. I think that if Clinton does end up going with someone like Tim Kaine, who would be a cautious, conventional kind of choice for the general election, then we go into the convention with the burden really on folks like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders to really fire up the faithful on the left and get them excited about this election. But I also wouldn't necessarily underestimate Tim Kaine's ability to sell himself and to tell a story about his record in Virginia that does, maybe make some people who are skeptical of him now a little bit more excited. Part of his problem is that he's just not been perceived as a fighter, and that's been what a big part of the Democratic Party has been looking for so far.
Christine Quinn, as a Clinton supporter, is Kaine a good choice?
I think he's a terrific choice. I mean, I think Secretary Clinton, as she said to you, wanted somebody she knew was qualified to take over as president if, God forbid, that moment happened. And she wants somebody who she, gets along with, has a good groove with, and they clearly do. Now, I think Alex is right. We're going to need, if that's the choice, because there'll be some concerns, Bernie and Senator Warren to really rev the crowd up. But I think that's not going to be that hard, because when you actually look at his record, he's got a 100% voting record with Planned Parenthood. All of the progressive and liberal groups that do this in Washington.
And we can now say her nomination, her pick for vice president is Tim Kaine. It is now official.
There you go. As I spoke, and and so it was. But, again, just to finish, he's got a 100% voting record from Planned Parenthood, 95% voting records from all of the progressive and liberal groups that do ratings out there. So this may be a guy who's a little on the quieter side, but a solid supporter of progressive democratic values.
If Jeff Zeleny is still standing by, is Jeff here still with us? Let's go.
Sure,
Jeff, do we know how was the announcement made, or has it officially been made? What do you know?
It It is going to be made very shortly, I'm told. I am told by a top campaign official that it is Tim Kaine. I just received word of that a second ago. And Anderson, an important point to make here is this completes the circle with the Clinton-Obama relationship. There was no one who was closer to President Obama than Tim Kaine. In fact, he was on his shortlist in 2008, some 8 years ago. Of course, he ultimately decided Joe Biden. Then he became the head of the Democratic National Committee. But tonight, this completes, I think, this really relationship between the Clinton organizations and the Obama organizations. And he was informed by Secretary Clinton that he was the choice. She has called everyone else on the list, including Tom Vilsack, someone she's very, very close to. But she has decided Tim Kaine for all the reasons we've been talking about tonight. It's not just that he speaks Spanish, not just that he is from Virginia, but she believes he would be a good governing partner. And at 58 years old, he is 10 years younger than her. The campaign believes that that is a good sort of look for the party going forward here. So once every other Democrat was informed, she informed her own staff. Many of the people didn't know themselves that Tim Kaine was, in fact, her choice. And he will be here in Miami tomorrow at Florida International University around noontime for a rally where some 60% of the students are Hispanic. Anderson, that is the takeaway the Clinton campaign wants to hammer home in this announcement tomorrow here. They're trying to rebuild that Obama coalition that took him to the White House in 2008 and 2012. That's what she believes she needs help with on that front. And he's also, as we've been talking about, he helps with white voters. At least they think he will. So this decision tonight, not a surprise, but an interesting pick, no doubt.
And Gloria Borger, I think David Axelrod last night was saying for a vice presidential pick, probably the two most important nights are the speech that the vice presidential pick makes at the convention and also the vice presidential debate. You now know it's going to be Tim Kaine against Governor Pence. How did they stack up?
You know, they're both people who have been involved in government. Each have run their states. Each of them have served for quite some time. You know, Pence was in the House of Representatives, Kaine in the Senate. Neither of them are particularly firebrands. Each of them was, in a way, a safe choice for their nominees. And so, the debate will probably not be full of fireworks. But, these are the people, when Donald Trump picked Mike Pence, he went to someone whom he thought could help him govern. When Hillary Clinton went to Tim Kaine, she did exactly the same thing. And, Trump did it because he's an outsider, and Hillary Clinton did it because she feels she knows what she needs because she's been in government. When you look at this ticket now, it's people with decades of experience in government. There is no outsider on the Democratic ticket at all because her comfort level is somewhere else.
And Dana, when I lost my train of thought. Yeah, actually, let's go to our Clinton folks here. Scotty, our Trump folks. What do you make of this? I mean, you were obviously a Trump supporter.
I think it's very interesting to see the parallels between the two tickets. I mean, if you want to find two candidates that make the top of the ticket look like the centrist, they've done it. Both of them. Mike Pence definitely makes Donald Trump look like the centrist with his conservative ratings. Now we're seeing that Senator Kaine has a 0, and you're right about the ratings. He has a 0%, the only lifetime member to have a 0% ACU, American Conservative Union rating. And so he's very much to the left. He's very much progressive and makes Hillary Clinton look like a moderate Democrat. So I think both the parallels between the two are just incredible. And obviously the governors, I think you're going to see some comparisons between how they've governed and who's done a better job with Virginia and Indiana, which you have to be careful of that because there is D.C. located within Virginia. A lot of people live there, and that's where the revenue comes from. But I think, if anything right now, I think Donald Trump, as we're talking about the Spanish speaking, I think he went to Rosetta Stone and bought Mike Pence, Rosetta Stone Spanish and sent Mike Pence tonight. If this is going to be such a big factor that they're laying
Tara,
on.
do you think the choice of Pence for Trump sort of allowed Hillary Clinton to make perhaps a safer choice?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was just thinking of going back to the vice presidential debates over the last few election cycles where people actually tuned in and wanted to see them. People wanted to see Sarah Palin against Joe Biden. They wanted to see Paul Ryan against Joe Biden. So this time around, it was do no harm on both sides. It was very safe picks for them. So Hillary Clinton, I knew she was never picking Elizabeth Warren. Sorry, progressives who were thinking about that. That was never happening. She was never picking Bernie Sanders. She was never going to pick anyone that she couldn't control, anyone that would potentially overshadow her. She wasn't going to do that. So Hillary Clinton, she is a political animal. So is Tim Kaine. They're comfortable with each other. And really, he's not bringing anything to the ticket for her except for stability. So what Clinton is doing, she's trying to draw a contrast between Donald Trump, who goes off the rails, is rogue. We can't trust him with the nuclear button and all of those things. But look at me, I'm the steady hand. Look at our team. We're the ones you can trust. And I think that picking someone like Tim Kaine, who is frankly rather vanilla compared to some of the others, brings that to her. I think it's a risk because I don't know that people are going to look, the independents are going to look to that ticket and say, this is who we want, because it's an outsider's year. People are very upset with the establishment.
Alex,
and this ticket's establishment.
I assume given the reliance on data, the Clinton campaign and the data that they have access to, that they have looked at this in every different way about how Tim Kaine benefits them, and must have made a calculation that he does benefit them.
Well, and even not having access to all the data that the Clinton campaign has, if you look at just Tim Kaine's record in his past elections, this is a guy who appeals to suburban moderates, to educated white women, to the sort of soccer moms and security moms that President Bush was known for going after in his campaign, and who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and then peeled away many of them to vote for Mitt Romney in 2012. That's a group that would be very, very much in play for another Republican candidate, and that Donald Trump is going to have to do a lot of work with. His choice of Mike Pence, I think, is part of, in some ways, there's another parallel between the two tickets. They're both choices to try to reassure a certain set of swing voters that, no, it's really okay if you vote for us. And for Tim Kaine, it's I think, reassurance on character, reassurance that she's not a liberal firebrand or anything like that. And for Donald Trump, it's obviously the exact opposite.
The Pence choice, though, if you think about it in a general election context, it may have solidified the far right-wing conservative, super conservative part of the Republican Party. But it really pushed out any chance, in my opinion, of bringing in independent women and any chance of making inroads, which I think they never had a chance, but regardless, in the Latino community. I mean, they picked somebody who is not going to help grow their voters, in my opinion, at all, and in fact is really quite alienating, particularly on the issues of choice and LGBT rights and immigration.
But I think that, after last night, I think that conversation's changed amongst the Republican Party, as it was well demonstrated. But I think to your point on this one, would we be talking about Senator Kaine right now if he was senator of Idaho? Is this maybe a warning sign that Hillary Clinton, whose the polls have been shrinking in Virginia, Real Clear Politics only has about a 4-point difference between her and Donald Trump, this is a must-win state for her. This will make it a lot easier for her. And I guess maybe she's not feeling like McAuliffe will be able to pull this state in for her. And so maybe is this a chance saying, you know what, I'm going to shore this up. This definitely made it harder on the electoral map for Donald Trump with this choice.
Dana, what were you going to say?
Well, I just want to say, I think Scotty's talking about Virginia, and I think that brings up a good point. That, I cover Senator Kaine in the Senate, and, maybe he's not the most exciting person in the world, but he has a personality. He really does. They like to joke, and I guarantee you we'll hear about this in the days to come, about the fact that he plays harmonica with a bluegrass band. But much more importantly, I think that when you look at Tim Kaine, he brings such a full package: policy, governing, and politics. Policy, he's on the Foreign Services Committee, he's on the Armed Services Committee, he's on the Budget Committee, Foreign Relations, Economic Policy. He is on he's somebody who has, according to his website, because I was just reading his bio just to make sure that there weren't things I didn't know, only person, one of 20 people, I should say, in American history who's been a mayor, a governor, and a senator. So it's those kinds of things that you are going to hear about his biography over and over again. But he was also chair of the Democratic National Committee. So he gets politics, he gets fundraising, which is a really big part of being a running mate. And so that combination combined with the basic that Hillary Clinton is comfortable with him, and he clearly fits what she has said and what she said to you, Anderson, that she's afflicted with the responsibility gene. She needs somebody who she knows can govern if needed. That's why I think for a long time now, people have been looking at Tim Kaine as the best possible choice if she feels like she had shored up.
Jeff Zeleny, I understand you've got some details. Jeff, I understand you have some details on how the calls went down.
I do. At 7:32 tonight, Anderson, really just a short time ago, Hillary Clinton placed that call to Tim Kaine. He again was in Newport, Rhode Island. He was going about his normal schedule today. He was in Boston this morning for a Senate fundraiser. He was in Newport, Rhode Island this evening at a fundraiser for Senator Jack Reed. He's a popular draw on the fundraising circuit, as Dana was just saying. And at 7:32 p.m. tonight, we're told by a Clinton campaign official, she placed the call to him. Of course, they've had many conversations along the way here. They were together last Thursday in Annandale, Virginia, for a rally to kind of get a sense of their chemistry. And boy, Anderson, her face lit up when he, touted her virtues. Particularly in Spanish. She didn't necessarily know what he was saying, but she was certainly struck by that. And then I'm told Hillary Clinton called President Obama tonight at 7:48 p.m. and informed him who she had picked to be her vice president. Of course, he had been quietly supportive of Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine was the first governor back in 2007 to endorse Barack Obama. They're about the same age, a little bit younger the president is, but she called the president tonight at 7:48, I'm told, to make that announcement to him. So other phone calls, things are going on now. New congratulations are coming out for Tim Kaine. But important to point out, the Democratic convention next week will have a bit of discord as well. He does not fit the liberal strain inside this Democratic Party, but you wonder why Elizabeth Warren or others haven't been picked. The reality is Tim Kaine, it's a safe Senate seat. His seat will be appointed if he wins by a Democratic governor. All the others are from states with Republican governors.
Yeah, perhaps some strain also because of these leaked emails from inside the DNC showing that they were essentially sending pretty negative emails about Bernie Sanders, talking about trying to raise questions about his religion, hoping that he would be asked about that. A lot more to talk about this choice ahead. We're going to take a short break. Our coverage continues in just a moment.
A great business needs a stunning website. And with Wix.com, you can do it all by yourself. Wix.com makes it easy to look amazing online, no matter what type of business you're in. Show off your images in a beautiful gallery. Grow your contact list and get all your social media in one place, just the way you want. Your customers are going to love it. So, what are you waiting for? Show the world what you can do. Go to Wix.com and create your stunning website today. It's easy and free.
The breaking news tonight, former Virginia Governor Tim Kaine will be Hillary Clinton's running mate. The two will make a joint appearance tomorrow at Florida International University. Secretary Clinton tweeting, "I'm thrilled to announce my running mate Tim Kaine, a man who's devoted his life to fighting for others." Senator Cory Booker said it this way, "Kaine is able." I want to go now to CNN's Brianna Keeler, who has new information. What are you learning, Brianna?
Hi there, Anderson. I've been talking to sources, and one told me that Tim Kaine was the only candidate amongst the bunch that Hillary Clinton considered who actually got two meetings with her. One was last Thursday when Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine campaigned in Annandale, Virginia. She'd said to him, "Why don't you come by the house later?" The house being Whitehaven, her home that she shares with President Clinton in Washington, D.C. And so Tim Kaine, I'm told by this source, came by late at night from 9 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. and they spoke. And you may recall it was the next day where it seemed like this revolving door almost of other vice presidential candidates who were going in and out of the House, meeting with Hillary Clinton and her close aides. Then I'm told Tim Kaine, obviously, we knew he wasn't there that day, but he was invited back with his wife the following day on Saturday for lunch. He was joined not only by Hillary Clinton, but former President Bill Clinton, as well as Chelsea Clinton and her husband, Mark Mezvinsky. Of course, Chelsea Clinton, so important even as an advisor to her mother. And then after Hillary Clinton had met with everyone, I'm told that she was given some advice from her campaign chairman, John Podesta, that he said to her, remember, this is someone that you're going to be working with every day, and that you need to be excited when they come into the room, that you need to be happy to hear their advice. Tonight, it was Hillary Clinton calling Tim Kaine first to tell him that he had earned this spot, and then she called the folks who didn't make it. And then also just something really interesting that I've learned from this source. This process began back in April, and the Clinton campaign was actually vetting a list of about 30 candidates, 30 different candidates. So it was a pretty long list. And there was a initial vetting information that was put together. John Podesta, the chairman of her campaign, brought all of this in a large book, basically a vetting book of all of these possibilities, to her house in Chappaqua, New York. And I'm told by this source that he concealed it in a plastic Duane Reade shopping bag as he took it into the house for Hillary Clinton.
Interesting details there, Brianna. Thanks very much. More now on Senator Kaine, who he is, things you might not know. Jeff Zeleny has that.
Are we ready for Hillary?
Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, new partners on the Democratic ticket.
Do you want a you're fired president or a you're hired president? Right?
It may be an anti-establishment year, but Clinton's running mate is an insider, a U.S. senator from Virginia and a former chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
And if I have anything to do with it, we'll win again.
By selecting Kaine, Clinton is betting that experience in government, not sizzle, is the best way to defeat Donald Trump.
Elections are just the beginning. The real work starts tomorrow.
He's neither flashy nor a showboat. A seemingly safe pick and steady hand. Just what Clinton told Anderson Cooper she's looking for in a vice president.
I want to be sure that whoever I pick could be president immediately if something were to happen. That's the most important qualification.
I'm Tim Kaine.
So who is Timothy Michael Kaine? A decade ago, as governor of Virginia, he introduced himself in the Democratic response to President Bush's State of the Union address.
I worked as a missionary when I was a young man, and I learned to measure my life by the difference I can make in someone else's life.
It was that stint as a Jesuit missionary in Honduras that shaped and now distinguishes him.
Estamos listos para Hillary.
He learned fluent Spanish and still speaks it today, which makes him a different kind of attack dog against Trump.
If you're a Latino, he's going to trash talk you.
Born in Minnesota and raised in Kansas.
The best decision I ever made was moving to Richmond to marry my wife Ann 26 years ago.
He built his political career in Virginia, rising from city councilman and mayor of Richmond to lieutenant governor and governor.
Thank you all so very much.
He's 58, 10 years younger than Clinton, known well inside the party, but not beyond.
I'm not the one with the biggest profile. I'm not the one that's the best known.
He signed on with Clinton early, this time around, endorsing her in 2014, more than a year before she declared her candidacy. For an original Barack Obama supporter, it was a chance to make up for lost time.
Give it up for Tim Kaine.
His politics are more moderate than the liberal strain driving today's Democratic Party. He's Catholic, outwardly moved by Pope Francis's visit to Capitol Hill last year. His views on abortion are far more conservative than most Democrats, as he explained in this interview.
I'm personally opposed to abortion and the death penalty, and I've lived my life that way. Law is what it is, and I'm going to carry out the law. I'm going to protect women's legal rights to make their own reproductive decisions.
He's also spoken out forcefully against the administration for failing to seek congressional approval to fight the Islamic State.
The war against ISIL is just, it's necessary, it's noble, but it's illegal. There's been no congressional authorization for this war.
It's an open question whether Kaine fits the mold of today's red-hot politics, yet his selection could help soften Clinton's partisan edges.
When it comes to our leadership in the world, trash talking ain't enough. We need a bridge builder, and we've got a bridge builder in Hillary Clinton.
Jeff Zeleny, CNN, Washington.
A look at the new pick for Vice President by Secretary Clinton. We'll continue the conversation throughout the evening. Coming up next, late word out of Munich on the mass shooting, what police are now saying was likely a solo killer. There's more breaking news tonight. Police in Munich, Germany have just updated the public on today's latest act of mass murder. At least 10 people killed, including the gunman, who police now say likely acted alone. He apparently took his own life, but not before taking so many others. That cell phone video shows the moment a man outside a McDonald's at a crowded mall firing as people fled.
So we went down on the streets, and there were people, like a small family, who had just run away from the shopping mall, and they told us that they had heard gunshots and people were running around screaming and people were scared. So we went upstairs again to be safe, and there were a lot of people, like about 50 people running towards our house to seek shelter, and there was a helicopter circling above us for about 20 minutes and sirens, and there's still people walking on the streets. They're confused and nobody knows what's really going on.
Well, CNN's Barbara Starr has the latest on all of it, starting with the video you just saw. She joins us from the Pentagon. A lot of unanswered questions, certainly, at this point. What do we know at this hour?
Unanswered indeed, Anderson, including this man's motivation. Really, intelligence and security services for much of the afternoon holding their breath, worried at least that this was another ISIS attack. That may not be the case now. All the indications are this man, 18 years old, possibly an Iranian German, was acting alone, committed suicide after carrying out his attack, killing 9 other people at this mall site in Germany, said not to be known to German authorities. Now, a very interesting piece of video emerged today, taken from several cell phones in the area, apparently, showing this man perhaps in a disturbed state, talking, not espousing any kind of jihadist ideology. The indications are he was from an economically depressed area in Germany. Have a listen to some of this video. We have bleeped out a good deal of it. It's just not suitable for a broadcast, but listen to what we can show you.
Der hat die Schusswaffe, der ist im Unterlauf her, sie sind drin, der hat seine Waffe geladen. Was hat das damit besser? Hol die Bullen, Alter! Hier, lauft umeinander! Ja, wie schon. Ich bin Deutscher! Du bist ein was machst du hier? Hier geboren worden! Ja, und was machst du hier? In der Hartz-IV-Gegend. Der kennt der Schädel und hat die Haut da unten. Ich warte, wie Sie gleich ganz in Behandlung. Ja, Behandlung, den fährst du für, ja. Ich hab nichts getan. Ist das nicht scharf, Jonas? Ja, warum halten Sie die Schnauze auf? Hey! Hier steht. Lauft im Oberseck, lauft umeinander hier, voll die Zone. Hier steht auch nicht.
Zum Treco, fosse.
So that's him yelling and interacting with some witness there. I mean, some man is kind of yelling back at him, cursing at him. He says he was born in Germany or grew up in Germany, correct?
Right. That's what he's indicating. We're not really sure at this point how much of this is true. And that is also, we have to say, again, translation of some of the key points on that video, and we can't show it all, but some of the key points that we found. So a full investigation underway. But look, this man terrorized, you can call it terrorism, terrorized a city for much of the day, a major city in Europe. The U.S. Embassy quickly issued a statement telling all Americans in Munich to take cover. The U.S. military said it was trying to account for every military member that might be traveling somewhere in Germany. He brought Munich to a halt. Lots of rumors that there had been multiple gunmen. We often see it in these cases. But tonight, at least, the Munich police believe this was a sole gunman. They will still be investigating, looking for any motivation, what was behind his killing rampage. Anderson?
We should also point out, again, we don't know the motive of this person or really much about this person's background. Munich is one of the cities that has received a lot of refugees coming in. Germany has taken in anywhere from 800,000 to 1 million or so, mostly from Syria, but coming in through Turkey and Greece and then onward. There is a very high level of worry about ISIS targeting Germany.
Absolutely. Set this entire, episode aside. The U.S. intelligence community throughout the summer has been cautioning that there is a very high ISIS terrorist threat across Europe. They are very worried that ISIS is trying to send fighters into Europe to carry out attacks and trying to inspire people already in Europe also to carry out attacks. Anderson?
All right, Barbara Starr, thanks very much. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump both reacted to this online. Secretary Clinton tweeting, monitoring the horrific situation in Munich. We stand with our friends in Germany as they work to bring those responsible to justice. Trump put out a statement reading, our prayers are with all those affected by the horrible attacks in Munich. This cannot continue. The rise of terrorism threatens the way of life for all civilized people, and we must do everything in our power to keep it from our shores. In addition to what you saw in Barbara's report there, President Obama was asked about it by CBS News' John Dickerson, specifically whether the attack vindicates Donald Trump's view of the world.
Mr. President, when Donald Trump spoke to his convention, he talked about the security threats. He painted a very dark picture. Now there's been a terrorist attack in Germany. Doesn't that suggest he's right about the darkness?
No, it doesn't. Terrorism is a real threat, and nobody knows that better than me. One of the best ways of preventing it is making sure that we don't divide our own country, that we don't succumb to fear, that we don't sacrifice our values, and that we send a very strong signal to the world and to every American citizen that we're in this together.
With President Obama earlier today, a lot of questions for our panel. CNN terrorism analyst Paul Cruikshank, CNN national security analyst and former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security Juliette Kaine, CNN military analyst, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, and Bob Baer, former CIA officer. He's now our intelligence and security analyst. Paul, in the video of the alleged shooter, it appears he's saying that he's German. He's speaking what's called High German. He's got a slight South German accent. What does that tell you, and what else stands out to you from that video?
Well, Anderson, what you're seeing in the video is clearly a mentally disturbed individual who is ranting and raving. A little bit later, you see him in one of the other videos that were shot sort of shoot randomly at certain points. This does not appear to have been a sane individual. And the fact that this individual shot himself apparently after the attack suggests that he was not animated by jihadi ideology, because within jihadi theology, there's a very strong prohibition against committing suicide. Sure, you're allowed to commit suicide bombings because the suicide there is a byproduct of the attack. But in Islam, even in jihadi theology, you are not allowed to commit suicide. So that is perhaps a pointer away from there being any Islamist terrorist connection to this attack.
Bob, at one point also he's speaking against Turks. There's obviously a lot of Turkish immigrants in Germany who work there and have been there for very long periods of time. Initially, the German police said they were getting contradictory information, but they believed that there were multiple shooters. But at this hour, there's no clear understanding of who could have actually carried out this attack. They now say there was just one shooter. Certainly, had there been multiple shooters, then the idea that this is an actual organized terror attack seems more real.
Anderson, exactly. When the police first started announcing this and putting out information, they said there were multiple attackers, 3 attackers in various parts of Munich. That's why they brought the special forces in. That's why they deployed all around the city, and why the U.S. consulate in Munich also advised Americans stay off the streets. So I think what we're seeing here is the German police were in a sense panicking because they're expecting an attack. But I completely agree with Paul, the fact that he committed suicide, the fact that he's an Iranian, rarely are involved in these attacks, and he was ranting on, and it looks like a random attack, a psychopath. But again, going back to the German reaction, they are clearly waiting for something to happen, and this is why they reacted this way.
Yeah, Juliette, there's been obviously a lot of concern about Germany, as I said before with Barbara, Germany being sort of next in the crossfire.
Yeah, and they anticipated it. Just picking up on what Bob said,
a lot went right today. It was a horrible day, but to the extent that there's the training of local and federal law enforcement, the minute this happens, they don't know what's going on. They don't know the motivation. It could be 10 guys. It could be one. It could be ISIS motivated. It could be something else. So getting the shopping mall cleared, making sure that the public was aware. Germany was incredible in their communication to the public about what people in Munich should do. Closing mass transit, an important lesson out of July 7th attacks in London almost over a decade ago, because you don't want people to be able to get away, but you don't want soft targets. So looking at this from the perspective of would Germany be ready, because you can't stop everything, this was an important exercise too.
Yeah, and certainly the bombing in Brussels also taught them to close down the subway system and do it fast. General Hertling, you're very familiar with Munich and their police force. What about their operational abilities? How capable are they?
They're extremely capable, I understand. Let me just suggest a couple of things in this operation. First of all, the police and the intelligence were very good. That's expected. They trained together very well. I'm very impressed with the Germans. I lived in Germany for 12 years. Second thing I think we ought to really take away from this is not every attack is an ISIS attack. I think for the first time ever, Michael Weiss and I agreed with each other this afternoon, saying that this is about possibly 70% ISIS, 30% something else. It turned out to be the 30% something else. Third thing is, this guy was a German. What he was speaking is not High Deutsch, or High German, or Hochdeutsch as they call it, but he was speaking with a Bavarian accent. It's very visible for anybody that's lived there. Most other Germans don't even understand the Bavarian accent because it's sort of like entering into southern Alabama and having that kind of an accent. So this guy lives there, and there is a divide in Germany between the Germans and the Turks. The Turks are currently being replaced by the Syrian refugees, but there has always been sort of a racial divide between Germany and the Turkish immigrants that had came there a couple of decades ago. So you're seeing some of that hatred show off, or the reaction to some of that hatred in Germany. And I think Mrs. Merkel has some real challenges ahead of her in terms of pulling her country together to unify after she has allowed so many immigrants in. But there is a lot of hatred forming for any kind of refugees entering the country of Germany.
Yeah, one of the things is, to your point, one of the things this guy was yelling that it was either that he grew up or that he lived in sort of an economically depressed area that was largely a Turkish area. Yeah. Paul, this does come at a time where German intelligence agencies were getting information that ISIS operatives in Syria and Iraq were encouraging attacks in Germany. I mean, certainly, given the huge numbers of German refugees and migrants that have been accepted in Germany and initially encouraged by Angela Merkel to come to Germany, ISIS would like to have some of that population turn against Germany.
That's right. There's been specific intelligence just in the last few days that ISIS operatives in Syria and Iraq have been reaching out to supporters in Germany, urging them directly to launch attacks in direct communications. They've also trying to recruit German ISIS members to come home and launch attacks. So there's growing concern about ISIS-directed and ISIS-inspired terrorism. And, of course, just a few days ago, on a train in southern Germany, there was an ISIS-inspired attack by a Afghan refugee. There have been these million refugees coming into Germany. There have been about 30 investigations where they've had hints of radicalization. But actually, in most of those cases, those hints of radicalization have not been substantiated. There have been hardly any cases, Anderson, of refugees coming in already radicalized. They're actually more concerned about the refugees being radicalized by German radicals already inside the country.
All right. I want to thank everybody on our panel. Again, our other breaking news story, Hillary Clinton has picked Virginia Governor Tim Kaine as her running mate. We'll have more on that ahead. Also, Donald Trump's new, I guess you would say tirade, or him speaking out against Senator Ted Cruz. Be right back. Our breaking news in the battle for the White House, Hillary Clinton has picked Virginia Senator Tim Kaine as her running mate. It'll be a busy weekend for them as they get ready for the Democratic convention starting Monday in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is back in New York after wrapping up the GOP convention. He gave his first speech of the general election just before leaving Cleveland, a time for him to launch a new phase of his campaign. Mr. Trump started off thanking his supporters, then it was pretty much back to the old Donald Trump. He went on the attack against Ted Cruz, his arch rival in the primaries, who snubbed him and refused to endorse him during his speech this week at the GOP convention. Sarah Murray reports.
Today, Donald Trump just couldn't resist the chance to settle old scores from his perch as the GOP nominee.
I don't want his endorsement. Just
Ted, stay home, relax, enjoy yourself.
At an event billed as a thank you for volunteers and staffers, Trump quickly veered from the task at hand, insisting he doesn't want Ted Cruz's endorsement and arguing he never insulted Cruz's wife, Heidi Cruz, even after he retweeted this unflattering photo of her during the primaries.
And I saw somebody tweeted a picture of Melania and a picture of Heidi, who I think, by the way, is a very nice woman and a very beautiful woman. I have to tell you, I think Heidi Cruz is a great person. I think it's the best thing he's got going in his kids, if you want to know the truth.
Trump stepping on his own triumphant moment just a day after accepting the Republican nomination, where he largely stuck to the script as he vowed to fight for the American people.
I say these words to you tonight. I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you.
While Trump used his Thursday night address to try and rise above,
let's defeat her in November.
Okay. By Friday morning, he was back to plumbing the depths of conspiracy theory, reviving a tabloid tale backed by zero evidence, linking Ted Cruz's father to John F. Kennedy assassin Lee Harvey Oswald.
All I did is point out the fact that on the cover of the National Enquirer, there was a picture of him and crazy Lee Harvey Oswald having breakfast.
And while Trump spent much of his convention speech offering a dark assessment of the challenges facing the country,
I have a message to every last person threatening the peace on our streets and the safety of our police. When I take the oath of office next year, I will restore law and order to our country.
Today, President Obama is pushing back, maintaining that portrayal doesn't match reality.
This vision of violence and chaos everywhere doesn't really jibe with the experience of most people. I mean, I hope people the next morning walked outside and the birds were chirping and the sun was out.
Now, in the wake of the shootings in Munich, the Trump campaign will certainly feel like they hit the right tone, they hit the right message in Donald Trump's convention speech last night. But the thing that could still give Republicans heartburn is whether Donald Trump is disciplined enough to carry that message all the way till November. Sarah Murray, CNN, Cleveland.
Well, in the next hour of 360, much more on Hillary Clinton's announcement. She's picked Virginia Senator Tim Kaine as her running mate. Some insight on why she chose him. A reaction from our political panel next.